ekam aksharam hribi nirantaram bhasate swayam likyate hridaya kuhara madhye kevalam brahmamatram yaham aham iti sakshat atmarupena bhati hृदि vishamanasa swam chinvata machyata anuchalanarodha atmanishto bhavam deham mrunmaya jadatmakam aham buddhirnatasyaspyato naham tattata bhavashukti samam siddhartma sadbhav Oham bhavayuta kuto marabhiya drishtatmanishtatmana soham spurtitaya arunachala shivaha purno vibhavati swayam soham spurtitaya arunachala shivaha purno vibhavati swayam. Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday satsang from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, it has been our practice to read 2 verses in succession from Guruvachakra Kovai, the work by Muruganar Swamigal. Each verse reading will be followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that shall be followed by a 10-minute self-enquiry practice session. Out of these 2 segments of verse reading, meditation on meaning, and the practice of Atma Vicharam are completed, there will be summing up remarks by our own Venkatesh Deshpande ji, and that shall be followed by the offering of Shri Ramanastotram by Vaibhavji and Prarthnama in the form of chanting, and Manjunath ji from right here with the floral offering. We commence this evening's satsang by taking the first verse selected for us, 172. The segment is Investigation into Truth. The second segment that follows this is meditation on the truth. And the third is anubhava or experience of the truth. We find the verse 172 in the subsegment, the dawns of the ego. The dawns of the ego, verse 172 and 173, together they have printed. Muruganar has amalgamated his prose renderings of verses 172 and 173. So our English translators have also combined both the verses. Verses 172, 173, investigation into truth, the dawns of the ego. Through steam power, a train rapidly runs rapidly over long distances, effortlessly hauling heavy loads as though they were wisps of straw. Will wise ones who travel on it carry their individual luggage on their heads? Likewise, since the omnipotent supreme power is itself bearing all the multiple burdens through its inherent nature, the perfect course for jivas is to place all their heavy burdens, their many anxieties, on that power of consciousness and remain free of cares. There is a Bhagavan's verse here, Bhagavan verse number 3. As God is bearing the burden of the world, the actions of the spurious jiva who pretends to bear it is comparable to the ridiculous act of a sculpted image on a temple tower that strains and grimaces as if it is bearing the weight of the tower. If a passenger on a train that easily hauls its heavy load carries his luggage on his head and suffers instead of putting it down in the compartment, whose fault is it? Bhagavan. There is a Sadarshana Bhashya extract. This is the discussions with Kapali Shastriji. Now I put a question to you. When a man with luggage gets into a railway carriage, where does he keep it? Questioner. He keeps it in his compartment or in the luggage van. Bhagavan. So he does not carry it upon his head or on his lap. Questioner. None but a fool would do so. Bhagavan. If you call him a fool who keeps it on his head, 1,000 times more foolish is it to bear your burden when you get into the spiritual life, whether it is Vichara Marga, the path of knowledge, or Bhakti Marga, the path of devotion. Questioner. But can I throw off all my responsibilities, all my commitments? Bhagavan. Now, look at the temple tower, Gopuram. There are many statues in it, and there is a big statue, one in each corner. Have you seen them? Questioner. Yes, I have. Bhagavan. Now I tell you this. This big tall tower is supported by those statues. Questioner. How can that be? What do you mean? Bhagavan. I mean, when speaking thus, that it is not more foolish and are carrying all your cares, burdens, and responsibilities, etc. The Lord of the universe carries the whole burden. You imagine you do. You can hand all your burdens to his care. Whatever you have to do, you will be made an instrument for doing that at the right time. Do not think you cannot do it unless you have the desire to do it. Desire does not give you the strength to do it. The strength is the Lord's. So the false dance of the ego is so utterly put in its place by Bhagavan by bringing us the fact that there is one omnipotent power, Manigalil Saradana Uyurdorum Nana Madandarum Muruvanai Maruvine Nita. That Madam can be taken as religion or the minds. Inside all those, there is this connecting energy, there is this power which runs everything, the omnipotent power of the Ishvara, the Chit Shakti. Now, when that is so clear, then for us to repeatedly think of our cares. Instead of that, we should understand that before we act, that power is giving us the thoughts. During the action, it is present and giving us. So after the act is completed also, the power is there. Therefore, it is best to hand over our worries and cares to that power. We will get a semblance of this we were discussing when we look how connected and how intricately connected all these events are. When we say our particular family is in this position, we have isolated our family and we pray for our family and we worry about what is going to happen to, within inverted commas, our family. Then we understand our family is not isolated. It is part of the whole flow of creation, which is tremendously complex and made of so many elements. And that one engine called Ishvara is running with that motive power, which is the Chit Shakti or the Sannidhi of the Aham Spurana. In that Sannidhi, everything is happening. Now, when that is the truth, to constantly worry that what is going to happen to my family, why is so and so like this, why is so and so like that, when am I going to be relieved of this, it limits the energy which we bring into the situation. Whereas the surrender to that power which is running everything brings that freedom, brings that joy, that peace of surrender into wherever we are. Instead of that, falsely feeling that we are carrying the load already limits our ability. When we take the Jiva Bhava and take our known connections alone to be the real thing, that our daughter is like this, our son is like that, our grandson is like this, our granddaughter is like that. But it's a human condition, it is a life condition. It is far more complex than our people alone being like that. That is why when that lady whose son has passed away goes to Buddha and asks him to awaken him, Buddha says, I will awaken him, but you go to that home where no death has taken place. And she goes, and obviously in every home there has been the birth and death drama that has been going on. So she comes back and she understands that she hasn't given respect to how the whole creation is being run by a karmic force according to them, a much deeper force according to the Hinduism in general. But the thing to be understood is it is not the Jiva who is doing anything there. He is being made to do. So far as you identify with the body and the Nandakumar Bhava, then the conducting of self-enquiry will be done by that Jiva. Whereas when we understand that the self, the Ishvara Shakti is already there, then there is nobody to conduct, there is nobody to be conducted. All one has to do is to hold that Spurana. The Spurana is already existing. The surrender is to understand that the Spurana is what is doing everything. So, when you hold the Spurana may teach, the Spurana is being the real Guru, may teach something about self-enquiry and it may tune you to the requirement so far as the you is there. But the understanding is that the Spurana, the engine, is always carrying everything. The whole creation it is carrying step by step by step at its own pace. Now to come somewhere with our limited knowledge and say that this is not all right or that is not all right is to merely limit ourselves and be non-cooperative with that energy and bring in our limited energy to wherever we are. Whereas surrender brings in that peace of cooperating with grace, cooperating with that omnipotent power, and understanding that one power is carrying every load. That alone is making us to act, and all actions from the one are offered to that. The ego no more dances either in claiming success or in worrying about failures. Bhagavan says the willpower is not success ensured. It is the ability to take success and failure with equanimity. When can we take success and failure with equanimity? Only when we understand that we are part of a whole engine, whole train being run by one omnipotent power. That is when we stop claiming doership and we just merely become part of that flow, and automatically the grace of God is there. Whoever is surrendered like that, they bring in grace of God into that scenario. Whatever that may be, it cannot be pinned down towards this is how they will act or that is how they will act. We cannot pin it down, because that will again bring it down to the dance of the ego. In this situation, how would Bhagavan have acted? If you think like that, or if what a typical devotee, surrendered devotee like Muruganar would have acted, then that is once again a play of the ego. One has to unconditionally surrender. Whenever the ego wants to say, I have done that, hereafter I will do this, hereafter I will not do that, immediately one should watchfully hold Bhagavan. Whatever you want to do, you do. Or better still, understand that Bhagavan is the Atman, the self, where Ananya Bhakti is there, and ask, for whom is this thought that I am carrying the load? That I am the one who is getting things done. Who am I? Takes us and that thought, the thought of doership, to the source. With Bhagavan's immense grace, understanding that practice of Atma Vicharam itself is practice of surrender, because it is practice of Atma Samarpanam. When the ego itself is surrendered, then whatever it can do is also automatically surrendered. With that, clearly in our understanding, let us sit for practicing Atma Vicharam for the next 10 minutes. Ujjwalji, you can keep us the time. Namo Ramanacentre.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by taking up the second verse selected for us. Verse number 646. We find this verse in the second segment, meditation on the truth, and the subheading is eliminating suttarivu. We were discussing about that before the satsang started. So, eliminating suttarivu is the subhead. Verse is 646. The revelation of grace, which does not shine when viewed through suttarivu, shines when that suttarivu perishes. The revelation of grace, which does not shine when viewed through suttarivu, shines when that suttarivu perishes. When I stare hard at my beloved, she looks at the ground. But when I do not look at her, she looks at me and smiles gently. The quoted material in the second half of the verse comes from Tirukural, verse 1094. Bhagavan in Padamalai, if the jiva remains without suttarivu, in that state it will clearly see itself as the immaculate, pure Swarupa, free from limitations. If the jiva remains without the suttarivu, in that state it will clearly see itself as the immaculate, pure Swarupa, free from limitations. There is another quote from Ramana Puranam, lines 217 to 226. Ramana Puranam by Muruganar Swamigal. When the I thought does not arise, and I unite as pure being with him, he remains merged with me, shining out as my very own fullness. However, the very moment I raise my head, thinking to perceive his ancient form, he sees my oddness, scorns me, and conceals himself from me. If I then bow down my head and die, he flourishes within me, shining his light as before. Thus, the majesty of the Lord will shine forth only before the eye arises, and after the eye subsides. Who then will have the power to tell of his greatness, which can only be known through the God consciousness in which I is absent, and not through the awareness in which the I is experienced? So the suttarivu is now reduced in this Ramana Puranam verse to the yielding to the raising of the I, raising of the ego. Of course, in the normal sense, the suttarivu is the ego looking at the other objects, all thought forms. We call them sensory forms, breath forms, mind forms, but all are the thought forms only essentially. And that arivu of the I, that I know, I am the seer, this is the seen. I am the knower, this is the known. When consciousness is divided like that, that is the root of ajnana. And that is where Bhagavan says, immediately realize that the moment you feel you are telling 10 other people something, you should ask, for whom is this feeling that I am conducting self-enquiry for 10 people? For whom is this feeling? Because that is suttarivu. The person who is conducting should inquire himself within, that who has this perception that I am conducting self-enquiry for so many people. The answer will come, it is for me. And when that I, it bows its head in shame, that is when my beloved looks at me, says the verse. From Tirukural, Muruganar Swamigal has taken one portion, that when I look at my beloved, beloved bows the head, and when I bow my head and don't look at my beloved looks at me, indicating that when the ego bends its head and stays there or is destroyed once and for all, that is when the Purna that rises and shines gloriously. And instead of the play of the ego with the Sutta river, the Purna Chit Sukham, aham, the Purna Chit Sukham, it replaces the seer seen duality. In fact, Bhagavan says all dualities and triads vanish when the source of all, the ego, is taken to its source, merged and destroyed there. All these dualities and triads collapse. That is where the Supreme Self, the Purna Chit Sukham, is realized to be our very nature, says the Padamalai, that the ray of light, which was feeling that it is going to get some satisfaction from some objective perception or objective knowledge, when by the grace it is able to understand the key lies in my source, from where I came, not from what I am going to get as Sutta river, and it turns back, there it realizes that my own Swarupa is the Purna Chit Sukham. Not that my beloved and I are apart, two different things, but my own Swarupa, what I was feeling, that I am the seer and the objects are the seen, I am the knower and the objects of knowledge remain outside of me. When I inquire into that duality and that duality vanishes, then I understand that my very nature is the Swarupa. And Bhagavan says, even the feeling that I had become a Jiva, I had partaken in a relationship with the world or with a few human beings, and I had become limited. Those thoughts are also erased in the Swarupa. In the Swarupa, there is no feeling that once I was like this and later I have become now the Purna Chit Sukham, that is not there. Even those thoughts are eliminated. For whom is this thought? Because that is part of Sutta river. When we are when we want to say so and so helped me by putting me through meditation, so and so in the family helped me to stay on course, then that is also Sutta river. One should inquire for whom is this. Now the real gratitude to them is to understand that they are also the Purna Swarupa. Nothing is other than the Purna Swarupa. It is all the Purna Chit Sukham. So the best gratitude, even to the greatest help you have received in your sadhana, is to identify with the self, with the Purna Chit, and not even give rise to the thought that there is this play of Jiva, and then the journey of the hero is there, and then merger into the Supreme is there. All those journeys, all those paths get merged into the perfection of the self. In the perfection of the self, there is no creation outside of it. There is no limited being who goes through turmoils, challenges, uplifts himself, and then rejoins. That story, the story of the hero coming back to the self, is also obliterated, and the Purna Chit shines as I, as one's own Swarupa. Till then, Atma Vichara has to be pursued to completely eliminate all Sutta rivers, so that the Swarupa rises and shines in all its glory. With Bhagavan's immense praise, let us sit in practice for 10 more minutes. Ujjwalji, you will help us out again. Namo Ramana.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. I request Venkatesh ji to give us the summing of remarks. Namo Ramana, sir.
Ramana. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dhyanamoolam Guror Murtihi, Pujamulam Guror Padam, Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam, Mokshamulam Guror Kripa. We are talking about a very interesting subject called the burden. So, let's try and understand what is burden. Before we let's try and keep things simple. Burden basically means something that's heavy and difficult to carry. Something that is heavy and difficult to carry. So that's what we mean by burden. So what is difficult to carry? So there may be different types of burdens. One is obviously the physical burden. We have this burden that we are carrying in this body. We may be 60, 70, 50, 80 kgs, and we're carrying this burden all around. But look at it. Who carries the burden? Fortunately, by the grace of the Lord, we get attracted to the ground, and by gravity, and the Mother Earth carries this burden. But we think, oh no, I am carrying this burden. Nothing. We don't do anything actually. Just think about it. You're sitting on your chair. The chair is carrying the burden, and the burden is falling directly on Mother Earth, and Mother Earth is carrying all the burden. So what are you doing? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You're not carrying any physical burden at all. Right? Then you come to the next one. That's a little more complex. The second one is the mental burden. Oh, a lot of devotees came to Bhagwan with mental. But what happens? What happens when you think of the mental burdens? So let's look at my own example. Whenever I go to Rishikesh to the Shivananda ashram, these Swamijis laugh at me. Every time they go. This time also when I go in November, they're going to laugh at me. What they say? Oh, Venkatesh, you were so worried about your son in the 10th standard, whether he will do well or not. Did he do well? Yes, he did well. Oh, you were again worried about the 12th standard, whether he will finish his 12th standard. Will he pass or fail? Did he pass? Yes, he passed. Oh, then he'll get a job. Did he get a job? Yes. Then he wanted to go abroad to study. Did he go abroad? Did he study well? Yes. Now again you're worried that will he get a job or not? Yeah, he got a job. Now what you're worried about? Oh, will he get a good wife or not? Now that's the new worry. So this worry chain, everybody laughs at me and says, "Hey Venkatesh, how long will you keep worrying about all these things? This worry will go on and on." This is called the mental burden. And these Swamiji say, leave it to God. You look at it from the past, look at your examples that you have gone through. Everything has gone through perfectly well. It may not have gone absolutely perfectly well, but it exactly went where you felt a sense of satisfaction. You felt happy about it. Didn't it go? Yes, it went. Then who was doing this whole thing? You thought you were carrying this burden. Oh, you got to think about this. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. No, it happened. My son applied first for 8 universities, all reject. Next time 6 universities, all rejects. Next time 8 universities, one accepted. Fortunately, very happy we were, and that was the perfect university. And he went and he did fairly well in his masters. So how did it all happen? It all happened because there was a person who was actually managing this mental burden. So that's why when devotees came to Bhagwan, what happened? They they all the mental burdens. We know Bhagwan. He says, "Give me all your problems," to one of the devotees. "Give me all your bad deeds. Give me all your good deeds." And now are you free? Oh, yes, now I feel free. Yeah, free. Be free like that. It's like that example, beautiful example we know of, the father and the son who went to buy a donkey. The donkey was, so initially both of them sat on the donkey and were going. Some people started laughing. Hey, look at these two people, stupid people. They are sitting on the donkey. Then what happened? Their father said, "My son is young. Why should he walk?" So he started walking and put the son on the donkey. Then somebody else commented, "What is this? Look at this. Father is so old and the young son, he should get down." So the son got down and father went on. Then exactly the same. Finally, what happened? They were both fed up of getting all these inputs from various people. Both of them carried the donkey and landed up in the village. There, everybody burst on laughing. They said, "What is this? You bought a donkey and both of you are carrying the donkey?" So the point really is, this is what the Nandakumar was talking about. Suttarivo. I'm going to listen to that fellow. I'm going to listen to that fellow. He's saying this. And you don't really listen to your inner voice, the inner voice, which is actually God within. We don't think about that at all, and we think about all these inputs that are coming from outside, and everybody's laughing at you because what everybody is thinking of from their point of view. So that is the mental sutarivo, the mental burden that we go through. So Bhagavan says, offer that also. Go inside, and you will well, that's what he says. Do self-enquiry. When you do self-enquiry, all these sutta will vanish. The third one is the more interesting one is the spiritual burden. Oh, I have to realize God, This is the biggest burden. All devotees who are all on this call, they must be having the same thing. I have to realize God. Somehow, this janma, I don't want punarjanma. I want to do it this janma only. So Bhagavan says, "Oh, yes, you want to do this." Then what happens is, again, you think that, oh, spiritual means there's something out there outside. I have to follow karma marga, I have to do bhakti, I have to do jnana yoga, I have to do raja yoga, I have to do all these hatha yoga, I have to do all these things. Then only I can come to God. Oh, really? God, but Bhagavan on the other, in the first breath itself is saying that Tattvamasi, you're already that. You're whole and complete. But you're forgetting that. No, how can I be whole and complete? I have to do something by which I become whole and complete. And Bhagwan laughs at us. He says, "Hey Venkatesh, why are you building up this storyline around this thing that, oh, there is this spiritual burden and I have to do something. It's very difficult." Bhagavan says it is like seeing a nelikai on your hand. It is as simple as that. But no, 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 it cannot be so simple. I have to do nishkama karma. I have to go to satsang, sing Bhagavan bhajan, and do all these various things. Then only I will realize God. Bhagavan says, Summa ir, keep quiet, just sit down and go inside. I am there. See, the beauty about creation is that Bhagwan, God created this whole creation. He didn't say, "Okay, creation, you be there and I'm going to be apart from you." No. The point is, when He created, even for example, a human being, He said, "I'm going to be sitting within. Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahmamatram." I'm there all the time. But we are in the Sutariva mode. Oh, we cannot be whole and complete. We cannot be purna. We lack something. Everybody says that we lack something. We have to get somewhere. But Bhagwan is saying, if we actually leave the burden to Him, and if we stop this Sutarivu and we go inside, then what happens to the spiritual burden? There is no spiritual burden. There He will make him your chintamani. He will look after everything. Whatever you look at our lives itself, the way we have come to Bhagwan, it's a miracle the way we have come to Bhagwan and Arunachala. It is a miracle. How did it happen? Because of that great force. So we have to start believing in that force, like we do when you get onto a plane. We believe in the pilot and say that he will take us safely to the other end. Like we put food into our mouth, food gets digested, and the morning it is out. How does it happen? Nobody knows. The heart is beating, the and potassium levels, sodium levels, the breathing is going on automatically. How is it happening? Have you ever wondered? Nobody has wondered and thought about. There is this underlying Atman, there is this consciousness which is making it all happen. It's only that we have to start seeing it in the way it is all coming out, the way it's happening in our lives. If you start seeing the blessing, if you see God's hand in everything, then you will start believing that all the burdens, it may be physical, it could be mental, it could be spiritual, or it could be any other burden that we think about, is actually looked after by him. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana sir. Namo Ramana Vaibhavji and Pratnama. Can we start the chanting?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Namo Ramana. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रम् भुवनं समस्तम् गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरम् चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः। ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थळे लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमदे नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसम्रम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्द्रशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजितचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निधाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलहृद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ मृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शूद्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावङ्गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकरात् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नमः इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शनसुखमङ्गलमुखसकलजीवहितसम्मुख ब्रह्मसङ्गिये नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानन्दपुष्ट परममहर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡು ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಗಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ. बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की जय.
ನಮೋ ರಮಣ ಸರ್, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮೋ ರಮಣ.